Doom Eternal has to be one of the best, if not the best, first-person shooters of the decade. And is one of my personal favorites of all time. Except when the game's pacing is shit! Hyperbolic title aside, I know that for the uninitiated that aren't hate-watching this video because they too dislike the Marauder to the same degree I do, I want to go over why this demon is such a problem. The issue with the Marauder is kind of broken down into a handful of different things. How Doom Eternal classifies demons in general, the abilities and weapons of the Marauder in question, and the rules of the game. The first thing we're going to note is that in Doom Eternal, there are different types of demons. You have the small fry, you have the medium demons, and then you have super heavy demons. Small fry can be killed with a chainsaw with 1 fuel slot. Regular demons can be killed with 3. Super heavy demons cannot. Can you guess which version of demon the Marauder is? If you guess super heavy demon, you'd be right. And it's part of the reason why it's such a pain in the ass to deal with this demon. Super heavy demons are inherently more tanky, they have more complex AI, and you have to usually do a very specific thing to kill them. For example, in the Ancient Gods DLC, the Bloodmaker, it is an invincible demon that you can only kill when it lets its vulnerability down and you shoot it in the head. The Marauder, by contrast, is actually a significantly more difficult demon because the game calls it a defensive powerhouse, which will get us into the second part of why this Marauder is such a pain in the ass to deal with and kills the pacing of this game, which is its abilities. The Marauder has a handful of abilities that make it a very terrifying mob to fight, but it's also part of the reason why it's also not fun to fight. It's classified as a defensive powerhouse. A defensive powerhouse in which that unless it is attacking you from a medium range with its axe, and you hit it while it's in the process of attacking, and it is stunned for a 1.5 seconds, that 1.5 seconds stun window is the only time you are able to damage this mob. You can't hit it with splash damage from a rocket launcher, you can't hit it with the BFG, even though it'll do a little bit of damage to it. The only way to reliably kill this thing is to kill it during that 1.5 seconds stun. On top of that, it'll block every piece of damage otherwise. It'll snipe you from afar and hit you in the face with a shotgun if you get too close. On top of that as well, it'll also summon a Spectre Wolf to pursue you that admittedly dies to like 1 hit with a shotgun, but it's still, it runs faster than the Marauder, which is already pretty fast, and will hunt you down. So on top of spawning ads and also being only able to be killed in one very particular way, this mob was introduced to us with voice-acted lines, which is where I want to get into the rules of the game. In Doom 2016, with the exception of some very particular boss fights, the way that you would kill things is relatively the same as you'd kill any other thing in the game. You would use your weapons, you would shoot them until they're dead, you shot certain mobs with certain things to kill them faster, you shot other things with other things to shoot them, to save ammo. It's all a game. What weapon works best to kill what enemy and in what scenarios? It's like chess. And then in Doom Eternal, we got a little bit of variety. You have certain bosses and stuff like that are fairly interesting to fight, but for the most part, the vast majority of the things we were fighting in-game followed the same rules and logic. Maybe, we may have changed some stuff around a little bit with adding, the flame belch and the grenade and all that, but for the most part, everything stayed the same. Until you get to the Arc level, where you have to find Samuel Hayden in the game. The moment you find that SOB from the previous game, a Marauder walks out of a dark red portal and has a bunch of lines talking about how we no longer fear you and we're better than you. And what ends up happening is you get thrown into what feels like a boss battle a little bit. This Marauder is introduced as like Billy Badass, and you have to sort of figure it out at the same time. You're mobbed by a few enemies, it's spawning wolves, and you're just trying to fighting for your fucking life, trying to figure it out. But then, for the rest of the game, it's placed in like any other mob. Along with the difficulties of fighting it, along with everything else. Dealing with like the rocket mobs and the titans and everything else, you, on top of being constantly pursued by a functionally invincible demon that takes no splash damage when you're using abilities and weapons that clear out large amounts of mobs quickly. You end up having to clear everything else out so you can then focus on the Marauder. It kills whatever feeling of pacing because it stops being about running, gun, rip and tear, move forward, go fast, kill things, and is all about, okay, I have to watch this one mob and watch what it does so I can kill it at the exact right amount of time. Because it takes, the way I kill the Marauder is I will use a blood punch, I will stun it with a super shotgun, hit it with a blood punch, and then hit it with a super shotgun again. 2, possibly 3 rounds of that, I'm able to glory kill it. Great. But that takes some level of I have to watch this and do it. Now, everybody listening could be like, okay, get good, scrub. Fair, but I want to talk about this in the fourth part. I ask all the people who are probably going to end up commenting under this video, oh, I can do it, it's part of the game, you're just bad. You're probably not wrong. I'm fairly competent at shooters, but there's probably plenty of people who are just functionally better than me. I have seen reels where people have killed a Marauder and, in that 1.5 second window. But I want to ask you a question. Not, can you do it? Because obviously we've all done it. You can't progress into the game unless you kill your first Marauder. And in Ancient Gods 2, you can't progress until you get past those 2 Marauders on the platform with the Screamers. Which is why I wanted to make this video in the first place. On screen right now is an 18-minute hyper-fast reel of me fighting these mobs for 18 minutes. And here's the thing, I've done this portion twice before. It took me 45 minutes the first time I did this. I'm not asking, can you do this? What I'm asking is does this look like fun? Does this look like an enjoyable, fast-paced, high-octane energy shooter? No, it's just coasting around waiting for the opportunity to kill these damn things. It's not fun, and that's the point. I don't think the majority of the player base finds fighting Marauders an enjoyable experience. I think that the the Marauder would have been a much better suited as maybe a mini boss or something in that room. You know, and we would have looked fondly back on it like, oh, that boss was hard, you have to do this, but you can get it done. But it's in introducing a whole new mob like the Demon Hunter, which is albeit a cool mob, and it felt like a boss fight, and it was interesting and cool, but like, at least the Demon Hunter, you can kill it properly. You know, you hit its blue shield, you blow off its base, and you're off to the races. The Marauder requires your attention. It requires you to stop playing a shooter and start playing a game of chicken. A lethal game of chicken that you're probably going to die multiple times, especially if you are in that said area in Ancient Gods in Amora and dying repeatedly because your hammer strike accidentally hit the goddamn screamer. This is not to say that, you know, Doom Eternal is bad, even though I went in here. But I think a game as amazing as this, the one or the handful of blind spots or blemishes it has, show. And I think, honestly, while I was trying to screen cap content for another project I'm working on, this, you know, standstill was just frustrating. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your viewership, and thank you for getting to the end of the video. And I'll see you guys next time. Doodles!
Poggers.